to access the market due to procurement rules, large-scale requirements, and pricing policies. To make this happen, innovations must have evidence that they will be more efficient and effective when compared to existing products or practice, and will be at least cost neutral, if not affordable. Without such evidence and end user endorsement, adoption of new innovations from SMEs is extremely unlikely. There is also a tendency to understand too little about the economics of innovations before they're introduced into the NHS, causing them to fail commercially. Innovations are often introduced in a gradual or incremental way into the NHS. That is on top of existing working practices and infrastructure, some of which these new innovations may be designed to replace. And as a result, innovations often simply add cost with little or no gain in value. Translating ideas and products into services is complex in nature, non-linear, where each innovation or technology is unique and develops its own pathway to commercialization. So, before you even get to the point of selling a product, this is the process you will have to navigate to have a product that fulfills the legal, regulatory, clinical, and procurement requirements, which takes time and is very expensive. This illustration shows the key milestones and touch points within the Medtech innovation pathway. But as you know, it isn't a neat linear process, and it also requires iterations throughout the process. As you can see, I've just shown one between idea and concept and research and development. These iterations occur right throughout the process. There are also a number of cross-cutting activities which you will come up against. And I've identified two this morning. So we have intellectual property. Intellectual property will play a key role throughout this process, from the start at the idea and concept stage, through the R&D, right the way through clinical trials, and as you start to formalize more commercial operations, then it really starts to come into its own. And Janet will talk to us this morning on some of those key touch points in terms of the types of IP and at what touch points they become more and more important. And the second cross-cutting theme for me is funding and investment. Again, for those of you who've been there and done it, you'll know that money is key. And you will require different types of money at different stages along this process. So where do we come in as the University of Central Lancashire? So if we go through the process, I can show you some of the support UCLan can provide to help you meet each of the key parts of the process. I'm not exhausting all of the different parts, but these are some of the key ones that you will face. So if we look at the from the idea, sort of ideation start of the process, we have the Lancashire Innovation Clinic. And the team within the Innovation Clinic has delivered human factors research and consultancy for global enterprises, including the medtech sector and NHS. Specifically in the productization and commercialization of innovation and R&D. Leading global programs from R&D through to commercial launch for some of the world's largest brands by identifying innovation opportunities and building effective liaison and realization solutions to optimize commercial outcomes. Their expertise spans innovation thinking applied through design for manufacture, service and user-centered design, building solutions around behavioral insights to maximize their opportunity, both commercially and critically, to benefit the end user. This service is free to Lancashire SMEs. If you're a company that's developing digital technologies, then the purpose of this programme is to support Lancashire SMEs, again free, with the challenges of adopting, developing and capitalising on digital technologies. And this also includes feasibility and validation, product design support, prototype development in regards to app and web-based front and back-end development, particular expertise in the development of AR and VR. And the team have a significant expertise and experience in this area within the SME community, but also in supporting the NHS, where they are working on a number of very innovative solutions that will help the NHS be more innovative in their own right. Then as we walk through into the R&D space, we have our newly incorporated Engineering and Innovation Centre. So UCLAN's Engineering and Innovation Centre is an advanced state-of-the-art teaching and research facility which engages directly with industry and provides students with real-world experiences on live projects. By doing so, the EIC acts as one of the driving forces behind the industrial strategy, both on a regional and national scale, addressing the need for innovation and producing the next generation of world-class engineers. With cutting-edge research labs, courses shaped by industry demand, and continuous collaboration with industry, experts and organisations, the facility will improve productivity across the region and equip students with the practical skills they need to enhance their employability skills, hopefully within some of your businesses, by helping to support the economy now and in the future. It's a signature project within Lancashire's Strategic Economic Plan. The 35 million EIC is the largest single investment in Lancashire's educational infrastructure to date, establishing UCLAN as one of the UK's leading universities for engineering innovation. As St John alluded to in the video, the university during the COVID crisis has been able to marshal the considerable research, workforce development and product development resources it has at its disposal in supporting businesses to develop solutions at pace. I won't say any more on this because Francis is going to talk us through this unique programme shortly. We then move forward again into product development. So as we reach this point in the process, the Innovation Clinic and Digital Plus programme can also support, again with physical products. You've got product and industrial design support, prototype development, materials, supply chain and manufacturing advice, brand development. If you're a digital company developing digital products and apps, then we have product design support, prototype development in terms of web-based front and back end, and also validation of those products and services. Again, huge experience within these arenas to help you drive your business through this process. Regulation is a very, very specialist area. So we tend to advise that you seek specialist advice in this arena. In terms of approvals and market access, again, the Engineering and Innovation Centre can support you through this programme and the Medtech Services Group as well. In terms of manufacturing and distribution, we have the Engineering and Innovation Centre, and we also have the Innovation Clinic again. So big, broad range of services that we can offer to you as a business in Lancashire. Clinical trials. Well, UCLAN has the Lancashire Clinical Trials Unit, or the CTU. And this was set up to manage health-related trials for the University of Central Lancashire and external organisations. The Lancashire CTU team has accrued many years of experience in the skills required to develop, manage and analyse clinical trials within a growing specialisation, particularly within trials of complex interventions, in particular feasibility trials. The formulation of the Lancashire CTU structure was initiated in 2012, and we are currently supporting national and international trials. The CTU offers a quality assured service for the coordination and delivery of key services pertaining to robust clinical trials of complex interventions and other well-designed studies. They also offer trial design and development, collaborative applications to funders, trial and site setup and ongoing management, including oversight monitoring, randomization, data management, statistical analysis and reporting. These services are underpinned by our robust quality assurance processes with a number of specialist areas, as you can see on screen. As we move into the evaluation, so you have a product, you've taken it through some clinical trials, you're looking now for some evaluation. The university has a programme called Lancashire Health MATTERS, and it's a partnership between the University of Central Lancashire and the NHS Innovation Agency. And within the programme, we provide SMEs in Lancashire who have created new approaches, practices, treatments, technologies or services to healthcare delivery and or patient care to help them work with and sell their products and services into the NHS and health and social care markets. The programme seeks to validate the benefits of health medtech innovations in a practical real-world setting via real-world validation assessment in order to provide the evidence that those innovations will be more efficient and effective when compared to existing products or practices. Without such evidence and end-user endorsements, again, adoption of new innovations is extremely unlikely. UCLAN provides the technology, commercialization, and product validation expertise from its strengths in clinical practice, product design, intellectual property, technology and investment readiness. And the Innovation Agency brings significant and unique access to the NHS, clinical staff, and commissioners. We see this as an outside-in approach to adoption. As we move into commercialization, again, Health Matters can help and support you through that process. Adoption, again, Health Matters. And once the product has been validated, the Innovation Agency, using their considerable expertise and support in the adoption arena, they can also help with identifying key players within that matrix that we talked about earlier on in order for the spread of the product to occur. Finally, post-market monitoring. Again, Lancashire Clinical Trials Unit can support and assist you in your endeavours as regards to that. And if you've got through all of that, then you need a big clap. Give yourself a big clap and a pat on the back, because that's no mean feat to achieve. For those of you who are clinicians who may be on the line, we also have a new programme called the Medical Innovation and Commercialisation Accelerator. And what we found is the best ideas for clinical, medical and health innovations come from the clinicians on the front line who are uniquely placed to identify inefficiencies in the healthcare system and develop solutions that can demonstrate value in meeting a clinical need, providing demonstrable health benefits to patients and patient care, while helping to drive down the cost of healthcare delivery. The Medicom Accelerator programme is a collaboration between UCLAN and 4 Lancashire NHS trusts, where we will audit research and innovation activity being undertaken by those clinicians from within the hospitals and to help to develop the outcomes of this activity into commercially viable products and services that meet the identified clinical need. Many staff are working on invention or process delivery improvement that has the potential to improve or create new approaches to healthcare delivery. However, it's a huge step for these solutions to be carried through to commercial products, not one that many clinicians have the knowledge and skills to engage in. The NHS nationally struggles to ensure wide commercialisation, adoption and spread of new innovations developed by its clinical staff. And we see this as an inside-out approach. So if you are a clinician, then this programme will help you across all of the key touch points within the process that we've just described. Those other cross-cutting teams, as we said, finance, we also have the Lancashire Investment Readiness Programme. This programme is unique in the market, providing a structured programme of investor-led input, investment readiness guidance, and support activities with the objective of supporting SMEs with demonstrably improved chances of raising third-party equity investment. We have to date over 200 companies completing the programme, and our programme is currently running at 66% success rate. The industry norm for companies successful in raising equity investment is 1 to 2%. And we've raised 5 million plus of investment with those companies. So, as you can see, it's a fairly complex arena, but what we like to think is that the University of Central Lancashire can help you, support you through pretty much all of the key areas that you're going to face as you traverse this complex arena. So what I'd like to do now is hand over to Francis, and he'll talk you through some of the work that he's been doing.
Much appreciated, Peter. If you're willing to ping on the slides for me as well, I'd really appreciate it. Well, thank you very much. So yes, as Syngent Pro Vice Chancellor at UCLan sort of intimated, the Medtech Solutions Group is new, and it was formed by the University of Central Lancashire sort of help the problems faced by the NHS trusts and wider partnerships across Lancashire during the start of the coronavirus pandemic. And it's led by Professor Jim Richards with support from us at the Research, Innovation and Enterprise Service. And the group's already met with a lot of success in terms of assisting both our partners and our businesses, and it's starting to sort of expand its role quite swiftly with across Lancashire. And in a way, it's not really a surprise, because we've got quite a large manufacturing sector in Lancashire, which is under quite a bit of pressure at the moment. And the medtech sector is worth about £24 billion nationally, and it employs around about 130,000 people across the country, of which 13,000 are in the northwest. So it's an area of opportunity, and it's particularly an area of opportunity for SMEs, because they account for about 30% of the total workforce in medtech, and just as importantly, around about 21% of the turnover is driven by SMEs, with a growth rate around about 12%. So if you're looking for new markets, it's quite a compelling area. And the biggest area of turnover is in vitro diagnostics and single-use technology and orthopedic services, which Jim Richards very familiar with. And the biggest employer, I suppose, is in digital health. So, as Syngent said, the Medtech Solutions Group at the University of Central Lancashire is a collective of scientists, engineers and technicians across the university, and includes experts in mechatronics and intelligent machines and additive manufacturing. And so, so I think they're all willing and able to help you with your challenges. And yeah, thank you. In terms of workforce, back please. In terms of workforce development, the University of Central Lancashire is committed to helping meet the region's workforce needs. And after the government and several regulatory bodies appealed for our help this year, our nursing and medical schools have supported 22 final year medical students and more than 300 final year nursing students to work in the NHS, filling a vital gap at a critical time. And the Medtech Solutions Group's also working with companies that need new skills to adapt to a changing economy with new pressures and need for innovation right across the workforce. So we can link you into knowledge transfer partnerships to help you develop a project that's particular to your business, which essentially embeds a graduate for between 12 and 36 months, and the cost is shared between yourselves and government. And we also continue to offer courses in continuing professional development, and also many companies have actually sort of reached out to help develop our own offer by sharing their own real-world expertise and skills with our students, which is of particular use to some companies, because what they're keen on is to make sure that not only do our students have real-world expertise, but that they're closely aligned to the needs of their business. So it's a two-way street. Next slide, please, Peter. Thank you. In terms of product development, well, product development is really at the focus of what we do in the Medtech Solutions Group, helping to answer the important and emerging challenges across the healthcare sector. And this spans, as Peter's been sort of fleshing out in far more detail, the whole innovation pathway from development of the medical technology through to its evaluation and implementation. For example, in areas such as CPAP adapters, where Dr. Matthew Dickinson and Dr. Sigurjak have designed sort of breathing masks which can be attached to viral filters as the current systems expel contaminated air into the ward, which you can imagine at this moment in time is dangerous. And these 3D printed adapters will also enable COVID-19 patients to get oxygen supply that they urgently need without the use of highly sought after ventilators. So it's a real step forward, and it was a sort of at a pinch point in the COVID situation, a real contribution to the effort by the university. In addition, there are researchers from the Biomaterials and Analytical Chemistry group. Back, please.
Sorry.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Our researchers in the Biomaterials and Analytical Chemistry group at the School of Physical Sciences and Computing have been working in our labs on campus to develop an antigen recognition rapid test that can be applied to SARS and COVID-19 detection in collaboration with the Pirbright Institute. And now that we're approved by the Crown's Commercial Services procurement arm, the group is sort of poised to support a number of new and exciting projects which we've been discussing with businesses. So it's going from strength to strength. Next slide, please, Peter. Thank you. And so in terms of research, this is not just important to ourselves and our strategic partners in the NHS and beyond, but it's also important for the wider economy. The life science sector is predicted to grow significantly over the coming years, as I've fleshed out, and particularly in the OECD area. But the interesting thing is outside the OECD, which is far more disruptive, with radical changes in demand anticipated in the BRIC economies and right across Asia. And this is leading to consequential shifts in the geography of life sciences and R&D, such as clinical trials and manufacturing. And research institutes in the UK therefore really need to invest to remain relevant and competitive, and to serve our local economy and to attract researchers inward investment, because it's a key area of our industry and our local economy, which we don't want to see overshadowed. So the biomedtech and medtech area in the north of England, including Lancashire, can realistically continue to grow and develop. And with the right partnerships such as yourselves, we can establish a competitive edge and a compelling offer for businesses and higher education and public-private investment. And as has been mentioned by both Peter and Syngent, UCLAN's new 35 million Engineering Innovation Centre and our excellent facilities right across health are a key driver for local economic growth, both in the region, and we really intend to, and I think Syngent's intending to, build on that success. So areas such as world-leading research in exoskeletons that sparked interest in the space industry, both in the UK and the US, as well as the sort of intended new world to be opened up for children with spinal conditions, is a vital area, as well as our computer vision and machine learning research and applications led by Bogdan. And we've only just entered into an area where computer vision and technology might actually surpass the human ability in terms of facial and object recognition. The combination of computer vision and endoscopy therefore offers a vast potential to enhance the abilities of the average endoscopist and the university, such as Professor Matsuiski, and is playing an important role with over 140 research papers in different areas of computer vision and medical image processing, and over 14 PhDs. So it's a real area of a strength. And the University of Central Lancashire is also working closely with our local NHS trusts, the National Institute for Health and Research, the Academic Health Science Network, and the Science and Technology Facilities Council and the Health Tech Cluster, support companies from clinical validation, as Pete's highlighted, and clinical evaluation through to device design, testing, and human factors. And we'll continue to build on the collaborative network for medtech right across Lancashire, and we're keen to help and learn from companies and work with you in the future. So thank you very much, and I'll pass you back to our next speaker.
Thanks, Francis. So what I'd like to do is hand over to Kevin Kiley for some thoughts from him as we go forward. Over to you, Kevin.
Hi there. Can you hear me? Everything on video, mic, etc. Good?
Yeah.
Firstly, thank you to Peter and to Sinjam for inviting me to speak this morning. We are proud to have UCLAN represented on the Medlink Northwest Steering Group, together with the chief execs of health technology businesses and senior executives from the Lancashire and the East Lancashire Hospital Trust. So who am I and what is Medlink? I think Peter touched upon the fact I'm the co-founder of Medlink that goes back some 25 years. And I hold the position of chief exec for Medlink North of England and also chief exec of Medlink UK, which is a federation of regional Medlinks. So what is Medlink? It's a not-for-profit professional association and specialist consultancy for the life science sector. What do we do? Well, again, as I think Peter touched upon, we bring together health technology businesses, universities and health delivery organisations such as the NHS at a regional level to drive innovation and UK competitiveness. So how do we do that? Again, Peter touched upon the word connectivity. We enhance connectivity, that is connectivity between businesses, OEMs and the supply chain, connectivity with technology providers and business support providers such as universities, and connectivity with customers, whether that be the NHS, social care, or indeed health delivery organisations across the world. But in addition to connectivity, we provide health technology organisations with a specialist resource. That's access to a specialist resource. And that spans innovation and commercialisation as one unit, PR and comms as another unit, and international as a third unit. So just focusing on innovation and commercialisation, you've heard Peter cover off the extensive range of support offered by UCLAN. Not surprisingly, there are many organisations offering different types of support at different stages in the product development pathway, and Medlink is one of these. Just looking at various phases within that pathway, one, I would like to emphasise the importance of the innovation strategy development, which is often overlooked, and I'm glad to see that Peter's Innovation Clinic or UCLAN's Innovation Clinic provides support in terms of innovation strategy development. In respect to opportunity analysis phase, we provide, and clearly UCLAN provides support with market research, competitor analysis, and also IP landscaping. But of increasing importance, I would say the development of value propositions, how to articulate the benefits of a product in terms of NHS drivers. So then when we move to the product development phase, support with design inputs and outputs, commercialization plans, and the all-important, I think, regulation, whether this is in meeting the regulatory requirements of the new European Medical Device Regulation, which will be in force in April next year, or indeed meeting the requirements of the new UKCA mark, which will come in January once we leave Europe. So in a product development area, these are critical components. As too is intellectual property, and I won't say anything on intellectual property because I understand that that's been covered later. Just moving on to the market access and post-market phase, which Peter referred to, we provide support with clinical evidence reviews, market access both into the NHS and internationally through our international team. And also I mentioned earlier the importance of developing a value proposition at an earlier stage. Well, I think it's really important that you communicate the value proposition through effective marketing. And that is where our PR and comms team comes in. As I said in my introduction, I was instrumental in developing regional Medlinks across the UK. And as such, I think I have a pretty good idea of some of the regional strengths. And after spending a considerable amount of time over the last 5 years in the Northwest and in Lancashire, I genuinely feel that the assets which we have in Lancashire, including some quality growth companies such as InviBio and Orthoplastics, as well as some incredible spin-out companies, new startup companies, with UCLAN, and you've just heard the amazing plethora of support services they offer, as well as engagement with the NHS, but also with the Lancashire NHS Trust themselves, which are exemplary in respect to medtech clinical trials and early adoption, which I think is really important. So I genuinely feel that Lancashire has a real opportunity to expand the health technology sector, the medtech sector, and to grow this sector to create new high quality jobs, because that's what we're talking about when we're looking at life science. So that's all I have to say. I will say that I've known Janet Knowles from HGF for over 20 years now, and I can't think of a better speaker to introduce you to intellectual property. And that's all I have to say, really.
Thank you, Kevin. Janet, over to you.
Well, thanks, Pete, and thanks, Kevin, for the endorsement. Yes, Pete, if you just move the slides forward, that'd be great. All I want to flag to you is the importance of intellectual property across the whole of that innovation pathway that Pete was talking about. So you can see I've put on the screen there the whole range of different things that are covered by different types of intellectual property. And some of them are free, some of them you have to pay for, some more you have to pay more than others, patents in particular, but they all give you some sort of protection for what you've got. And it's really important when you've first got your idea to think about how you're going to protect that idea through confidentiality. If you're moving into research and development, have you got proper collaboration agreements in place that make sure the intellectual property finishes up in the right bucket, in other words, your bucket, so that you own it at the end of the day, can use it, right through down to what happens during the clinical trials, clinical investigations, through to the commercialization process. And I work along the whole gamut of that range. The HGF operates to sort of protect that IP, to register patents, to register designs, to advise you on how best to protect trade secrets and know-how, how best to protect copyright, and ensure that, for instance, your software in your medtech is suitably used and kept confidential and licensed appropriately. Next. And why do we ever bother protecting intellectual property at all? Well, it's truly all about competitive advantage. If you want to get investment into your business, which you will need for a medtech company most of the time, because it is expensive to get these things to market, to get them right through the clinical investigations and clinical trials, you'll need investment. And intellectual property is a key factor in giving you that competitive advantage. You'll see on the screen there, I've given you the Michael Porter's 5 forces for competitive advantage, and the business schools talk about this all the time. Intellectual property is a key in all of those aspects of the 5 forces, because it can increase your bargaining power. You've got the protections of your intellectual property to get out there. It reduces your buyer's bargaining power, because they may not be able to go anywhere else to get this product because you're the only one that's got the rights over it. You know, it can help you stop other people bringing substitute products and services into the market, because you can go out and stop them using your intellectual property, and you can stop new entrants into the market. So it could ultimately mean, and particularly if you have a patent, that you have no competitors. So what does that mean for the products you've got? Well, I've just put a selection of products in this sector that could come out there, and it doesn't matter whether we're talking about, you know, medicinal products such as pure medicines, through to vaccines such as those looking for COVID, or devices like inhalers, topical creams, which are also devices, through to the more electronical side and software side of things, the more traditional ones you can see, plus the apps that are coming out there where we can get design protection on some of those screen things as well as patents for the actual invention itself or copyright protection for the software. So it's always good to sit back at the beginning and say, what am I coming up with here? What protection can I get it? How much is it going to cost? How can I schedule those costs? Getting a proper strategy in place and thinking about it early. And we're always happy to sit down with people early, and we have free of charge conversations at the beginning so you can get your initial ducks in a row and make sure you're going to market in the right way. You don't get anything wrong at the beginning, because if you get something wrong at the beginning, it can scupper your whole plans downstream. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Janet. And last but by no means least, Michael, over to you.
Great, thanks. Did you have any slides for me or not?
No.
Okay, fine, no worries. So I'm Michael Kipping. I work for an organisation called Innovate UK. So I live in Leyland, so I live in Lancashire, and I have been passionate about medical devices for like 20 odd years now. Did my research on the wrong side of the Pennines at a university that has a white rose attached to it, and then worked in industry for about 10 years. Worked for the regulator, one of the regulators, the MHRA, for a few years, and now find myself at Innovate UK, trying to help support life science companies and largely amongst those health technology companies, try and get their products to market. So I've been very fortunate to see this sector from lots of different angles. Now, Innovate UK is part of an organisation called UK Research and Innovation, and UKRI came into existence a year and a half ago. And it brought together the 7 research councils, so the likes of MRC, EPSRC, BBSRC, so on and so forth, Research England and Innovate UK. So we're kind of like the Research Council for industry. So we support industry-led projects. The programme I look after is something called the Biomedical Catalyst. Now, if you just ignore the name of it for the moment, because biomedical does have a very specific definition. It's a program that came into existence in 2012, and it supports companies across the whole gamut of life sciences. So we support digital health companies, we've supported the likes of Care on Medical, Skin Analytics. We do a lot in diagnostics, even things like gene therapies, like Oxford Biomedica, for instance, therapeutics, medical, literally everything and anything. And broadly, the program is split into 4 streams. So we go from feasibility, which is, if you're into technology readiness levels, it's sort of TRL 3-ish. It's that translational research stage. And so we have a stream there, and we have other streams that go right up to market. We can't fund anything post-market. It's difficult for us to, because we have to work within state aid rules. But we can support companies with, like with regulatory advice, for instance. We can support with running clinical trials, human clinical trials, pre-clinical investigations. So pretty much everything that you need to do, there are funding opportunities from us. And I'll also make a plug for NIHR as well, who also have some really good funding schemes for medtech organizations. So between us, we're kind of the go-to organizations for non-dilutive state aid funding, which is, again, really important. As Peter said, you'll need different types of money at different stages of development. So it's well worth thinking about non-dilutive funding certainly at the early stages of development. You don't want to give away the value of your company unless you really have to, and you will do at some point, probably. You probably need to get some equity investors in there, but kind of try and do as much as you can without giving away the value of your company. Innovate UK, along with state aid funding, we also have lots of other different ways of supporting businesses. So we, amongst the Innovate UK family, we have something called the Knowledge Transfer Network, which we provide about 80% of the funding for. completely separate organisation from us, but they provide lots of sort of advice and expertise for free, and can review applications to Innovate UK. We also support the Enterprise Europe network. We also part fund the catapults, and that can provide some additional expertise. And again, in terms of the opportunities for money, we have overseas sort of initiatives. So we have kind of innovation missions to other countries. So I've been in the midst of organising one to South Korea, which due to a pandemic has been put back. Maybe we'll get to do it in the new year at some point. So we're about driving the UK economy, not specifically trying to meet the UK's health needs. And that's quite an important distinction to make, because if your product, say you want to develop your product in the UK, co-develop it in the NHS, which is a fantastic place to develop products. If your market is the US, that's fine. You can still come to money from us to support that work, because we're about trying to help you generate jobs, revenues, and bring money back into the UK. So that's absolutely fine. So we don't have the focus on the NHS that other organisations do. Main thing I think to stress from today is that you've heard from some fantastic speakers, from Janet, from Kevin, from Francis, and Peter, and there's a lot of information, but there's a lot of support there for you. So use that support. Approach Janet, approach Kevin, Francis, Peter, myself, if you need to sort of dig into the specific requirements that you have. But that support is there, so please tap into it.
Okay, thank you, Kevin, and thank you to Janet and Kevin, Michael and Francis, and St. John. That brings us to the end of our formal presentation. So I'd like to throw open the latter part of the discussion to any Q&As that you may have. What I've also done is I've put together a slide with some of the contact details of our speakers this morning. I know this is being recorded, so you don't have to make a note of them now. But if you want to talk to myself or any of our guests this morning, please feel free to drop them an email. So let me just shut that down. Okay. Are there any questions? Okay, let's see.
Just while we're waiting for questions as well, thank you, Peter. I'm just going to pop a link into the chat box. If anyone has got any feedback in general about this or Lancashire's innovation strategy, we'd really appreciate your comments there.
So we've had, will the slides be available? Dan, this is being recorded, isn't it? So it will be available as a video, as I understand it.
That's right. Yeah, the whole session is recording and will be on our YouTube channel. I'll pop a link into the comments in a moment's time.
Okay. And there's been a suggestion about having a word with Lancs CTU. So I will pick up with the individual you've suggested and make sure that as we go forward, we'll make that that information available to anybody that needs it.
I've got a question. That's to Michael. Would you like to come along to the Medtech Solutions group one day? I'd like to introduce you to the gang.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to. Yeah.
Brilliant. Much
yeah, I have a UK focus, but my heart's now firmly in Lancashire.
As it should be. As it should be. Well done. Thank you.
Okay, so we've had one. Innovations from social care is always a tricky area. Have you had any opportunities to generate innovations from social care and show impact? I'm going to open that up to our speakers to see if they have any examples.
Yeah,
Janet,
I've certainly dealt with some innovations from social care. They tend to be, because they tend to be innovations that aren't patentable, people think you can't do anything to protect them or to make sure they get out into the market. So I've certainly seen many things around, for instance, things like psychological questionnaires, a whole range of different sort of questionnaires, training packs and the like. And the key then is to think about your copyright protection, your design protection, your brand protection. And we've done some really great things. We did one, particularly in the food area, which was around animations and things like that. It was for children, getting them to eat the greens, you know, they're 5 a day and what have you. There's always ways to think about it. And the key is always to have a conversation up front, so you can be looking at what you can do and how you can best protect it. And it's not necessarily that you're out there to make money out of it, but you just want to have enough funds coming back to generate and support the project that you're trying to take forward, and make sure that you get the, you know, you get the benefit of all the hard work you've put in, and that it generates back into your organisation to invest in more social care.
thanks, Janet.
Peter, if I could just add in there after Janet, that I think the government is, I believe, going to create a much more interesting arena in the social elements of technology and enterprise. And they're going to do it under the heading of projects such as social prescribing and healthy aging. There is no doubt that those projects will not land in their entirety unless there is a technical framework on which to deliver the objectives. And I think colleagues should keep a very close eye out for the types of developments that are out there, particularly, I think, emphasized during the COVID events that have ended up isolating individuals who are desperate for connections of some form or other. And that might involve social prescribing events as well. So I think this is a highly exciting arena, that particular event.
Yeah, I just like to say that Medilink provides direct support to companies, and in the early days it was very much medtech and it was all about the NHS. Now many of our members are serving the social care market, and that's obviously a growing market. And I think we've all seen during COVID the move to remote monitoring and digitization, and again a growing proportion of our members are now medtech companies moving towards digital delivery or remote delivery. So that level of connectivity is becoming really important going forward.
I'll quickly jump in as well. So going kind of thinking back to when I worked in sort of cardiac rhythm management, cardiology area. And my wife's works in cardiology at Manchester University's Foundation Trust. Sometimes we lose sight of the person in this, the patient in this, and certainly from an Innovate perspective, we do fund projects within sort of social sciences, and we also fund platform technologies as well that perhaps support drug development or device development. I think a couple of other points are that you know, a large proportion of the NHS's budget goes on people, and actually enabling people to work more efficiently, more effectively, but also certainly during the COVID pandemic, being able to maintain their skills, training, and expertise has been really challenging. So, you know, so we're trying to take a more holistic view on people. And yes, there's been a big move to remote patient monitoring. So if I think about pacemakers, for instance, you know, remote patient management's been around for 20 years or so. But it's only with the pandemic that they've moved to truly sort of remote clinics, which is great. But then you lose sight of you can lose sight of the person in this. And yes, you need to look at the diagnostic information from their device, but you need to see the person. You need to see their wound. You need to look at other factors that could impact on their condition, like diet, nutrition. So so there are kind of lots of elements, and you know, sometimes we can get focused on kind of the specific challenge, and that's why sort of the patient and healthcare professional engagement is so important, to make sure that kind of your potential solutions are actually going to hit home where they really need to hit home.
Thanks, Michael. So we've had a question in from Shaz. How can he get into the NHS to provide marketing services? Unfortunately, I'm not able to provide you with that level of detail, Shaz. What I would suggest is maybe you approach, it could be, you know, through the website of the trusts or the local hospitals. It's not the kind of information that I would have or indeed be able to give out in this session. So apologies if I've not answered your question as satisfactorily as you would like. Okay. What I'd just like to say is we have a feedback form, and we would really welcome your feedback on that form. The link to the form is in the chat, and it'd be great if you could just give us some feedback. We're always trying to improve over what we do, so anything you can share with us will make that a lot easier for us. We've had one through from Paul. On Evidence Limited launched earlier this year. After about 2 years of development, we work with academics and practitioners to develop specialist training courses, mostly distance learning. We're currently in talks with the CPS about getting our courses into their training programs. I'd be interested to hear advice re-approaching the NHS about health-related courses. Do any of our speakers have any information or guidance that they can provide onto that? St John, is that something you could answer? You're on mute, St John.
It was going to happen eventually, wasn't it? That is just a challenge where you need to sit down and meet with the various controllers of the flows of information. I think we could probably facilitate discussions of that, there's no doubt. And probably Francis through the Tech Solutions Group, simply because of the level of contact we've got. So I would suggest a contact to Francis, and we'll create a bespoke event so the right players are in the meeting and that discussion can at least start.
Thanks, St John. Anybody else like to chip in on that one?
I can see there's a question that's actually gone into the chat box that's asked if anyone's got any example case studies as they can bring the subject to light. So, I mean, I can certainly mention several, but just thinking about one, when you're thinking about what you're doing with intellectual property at the beginning, we had, as Pete well knows, we had an innovation came out of a university. It was about a glucose blinding technology. And because they thought about their strategy up front, what they were able to do was come up with a sensor and also a glucose binding molecule. And when it came to commercialization, they had appropriate patents in place, they kept confidentiality, they'd had to do quite a bit of, in terms of documentation and deals, which I was involved in making sure all the intellectual property finished up in this particular company, all ready and set up. But they were then able to do an early deal with Novo Nordisk, which is one of the larger pharmaceutical companies across the world in the diabetes space, to sell on the company for 800 million US. But they were also able to spin out the sensor technology into a separate company, which they were then are continuing with under the name Carbometrics. So, you know, if you're thinking ahead, there's lots of different ways you can get yourself ready for the end game. So thinking at the beginning is always important.
Can I jump in on that as well?
Sure,
Peter.
Certainly, Michael.
So I'd say the same with regulation as well. As Kevin knows, I tend to veer onto regulation at some point during these things. I'll try and keep it light. Regulation is often something companies think of at the end of a process. And yes, it is a process, you know, whether it's MHRA or HSE or whoever you need to go to for your approval. Yes, it is towards the end of the process, but you need to think of it up front, as you would do with IP as well. You need to think about sort of kind of what the use case is for your product, so you can develop your preclinical and clinical work to gather that evidence, but also, you know, gather the evidence you might need for market adoption as well. What you don't want to do is get far along the process and then have to go back and do more work, because that can be very difficult to get the funding from investors to do that. So, you know, just think about it up front. And when I say think about it, you've got Medilink, so they have advisors that you can go to for consultancy. I'm a member of an organisation called TOPRA, the Organisation for Professionals in Regulatory Affairs. You can go to their website. They've got a great big long list of professionals that can potentially support you as well. But navigating the regulatory pathway, it can be daunting, absolutely. And I was loaned back to MHRA to help with the ventilator challenge. And one of the key things that I was able to focus on was making it as clear as possible to companies what they needed to do to demonstrate conformity with the requirements of MHRA at that time, because it wasn't a notified body that the process, and actually enabling companies to understand, what they need to do at the earliest stage was really, really powerful. And for me, it's really powerful outside of the ventilator challenge and sort of applicable to all products. So think about it early, and would be a key takeaway. And like I said, you've got Medilink, you've got TOPRA, you've got lots of organisations that can support you with that as well.
Yeah.
But just be careful. There are some purveyors of snake oil out there as well. So be careful who you go to, okay?
Thanks, Michael. I'd just like to add to that. I mean, what you're going to find, a lot of you guys in companies who are looking to apply for funding, as Michael said, and Janet started to think about it early. Increasingly now, the funders, Innovate UK, and all of those different funders will want to know what your strategy is going forward. They will want to know what IP you have or are looking to protect. They will want to know what your problem you're solving. They will want to know how you're going to solve it. And also, beyond the development phase is how you're going to take that idea through to the marketplace. So, think about these things before you even start to put them in an application, because the funders will want to know as well. Okay, I think unless anybody has anything else, I think we've answered all of the questions, hopefully to everybody's satisfaction. I take on board the point about case studies. I think what we've tried to do is get through a lot of information this morning, and because we knew it was being videoed, hopefully it will just give you the opportunity to think, actually, I do have a problem or I do have a question, but at least now you have some contacts or you have some appreciation of the support that's available to you. Having been, in the position of running my own company previously, it can be a very lonely business. And it always helps if you've got somebody there to pick the phone up to, or you just want to have a conversation, or, where there's some real need for support there. It's great where where to go. So hopefully we've given you some pathways to enable you to pick the phone up or send an email. As Janet said, they will give you an element of free advice, just, as you come forward. In terms of Kevin's organisations, it's not just about the UK. For Medilink, it's about, though we're just talking about UK at the moment, but you're going to run into a whole raft of other issues as soon as you push the button when you start to export, so there's a whole different raft of issues you need to consider. And, in terms of Kevin, the regulatory frameworks that are around there at the moment, they are going to get more and more and more difficult as we exit Europe. So, you're going to start to come up with a lot of regulatory issues that you've probably never thought about or come up against before. In terms of the university, hopefully we've shown you the breadth of what we do, and not just from an academic perspective, but from the capability in terms of developing people, but also in terms of the business facing programs that we run as well. And obviously you've got contact details for them as well. Janet, did you want to come in on something? No, sorry, the camera's changed. Apologies for that. So unless anybody's got anything further to add, we'll leave it there. We've run over considerably, but we do appreciate you being on the line.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you to Francis as well.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you to all the panel that have joined this morning to share a real wealth of insight and a real showcase a real commitment towards medtech and health across the Lancashire region. So we appreciate all your time. And just to let anybody know who is in attendance still, we've got a couple of sessions left. This afternoon we have a showcase on agri-tech, and then tomorrow afternoon we are closing the whole event with a vision for the future of Lancashire in respect of innovation. So I hope you can join those sessions. You'll find them on lancashireinnovationfestival.co.uk. But in the meantime, we'll bring this session to an end. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to catching up soon. Goodbye for now.
See ya. Thanks.